Eyes in the static. The old CRT television sat in the corner of the living room, a relic from another era. Nobody used it anymore, but Lisa refused to throw it out. It had been her father's TV, and now, after his sudden passing, it felt wrong to let it go. She kept it unplugged though, a massive black screen gathering dust. That night, rain lashed against the windows and thunder rumbled in the distance. Lisa curled up on the couch with her laptop, scrolling aimlessly through social media, trying to distract herself from the oppressive silence of the house. The power flickered, once, twice, then it went out entirely, plunging the room into darkness. Lisa sighed, reaching for her phone to use its flashlight, but before she could turn it on, a faint flickering light caught her eye. The TV. It was on. Static filled the screen, an unearthly white and black snowstorm hissing and crackling in the dark room. Lisa froze. The TV wasn't plugged in. She was sure of it. She hadn't touched it since moving back to her father's house. Probably the storm, she muttered to herself, trying to shake the unease creeping up her spine. Slowly, she walked over and pressed the power button. The screen went dark, and she let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. But as she turned to walk away, it clicked back on. Static again. This time, faint shapes began to emerge, shadows in the storm of black and white, shifting and moving. Lisa stared, transfixed. Were those faces? She leaned closer, squinting at the screen. The static seemed to ripple, almost alive, and then she saw them. Eyes. Hundreds of them peering out from the screen, wide and unblinking. Lisa stumbled backward, her heart hammering in her chest. The hissing grew louder, filling the room with an oppressive noise that seemed to vibrate through her bones. And then she heard it. A voice, faint and crackling, as if carried on the static itself. Lisa. Her breath caught. The voice was her father's. "Dad," she whispered, stepping closer. The static swirled, the eyes multiplying, their gazes fixed on her. The voice came again, louder this time, more insistent. "Lisa, help me." She reached out instinctively, her fingertips brushing the glass of the screen. It was cold, far colder than it should have been. The static surged, and for a brief moment she thought she saw him, her father's face, pale and distorted, his eyes wide with fear. "Lisa, they're watching." The screen went black. For a moment the room was silent except for the pounding rain outside. Lisa stood frozen, her hand still hovering over the TV. Then the power came back on, and the lights flickered to life. The TV was off, just as it should have been. Lisa stared at it, her mind racing. Had she imagined it? The storm, the grief, maybe it was all just playing tricks on her. But then she saw them. In the reflection of the TV screen, faint but unmistakable were the eyes. And they were watching her. That night, Lisa packed a bag and left the house. She never went back, leaving the TV and everything else behind. The house was sold, the new owners unaware of its secrets. But sometimes, on stormy nights, passers-by claim to see a faint flickering light in the living room window. And if they listen closely, they swear they can hear the faint hiss of static and the sound of someone whispering their name.